What is going on, everyone? It is Connor, the co-host with the most, back here with another NHL video on the Clutch Crew Sports YouTube channel. I've already done the 4 division videos. Opening night was last night for the NHL. There was 2 games on, but today is when the action starts for most of the teams, and this is going to be my official 2022 NHL Season Preview. So that's going to mean conference finals for both finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, who I think is going to take home the Stanley Cup, as well as the winners for all the major awards. So like I said, I've already covered all the divisions. I started with the Central Division way back when, then moved to the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Metropolitan, and now we're here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this part, but basically on the screen here we have who I think the top 3 teams from each division are. For those of you who don't know, the way the playoffs work in the NHL is it's the top 3 teams from each division automatically get in, and then there's 2 wild cards from each conference that it could be 1 from each or 2 from the same division, whatever the next 2 highest teams are. So what I have on the screen here is my top 3 teams for each division. If you were to go back and watch my preview videos, if you watched all of those, you already know who these teams are. But just a quick recap for the Central, we have the Avalanche in first, the Blues in second, and the Predators in third. For the Pacific, we have the Oilers in first, the Golden Knights in second, and the Flames in third. For the Atlantic, we have the Lightning in first, the Maple Leafs in second, and the Panthers in third. And then for the Metropolitan, we have the New York Rangers in first, the Carolina Hurricanes in second, and the Pittsburgh Penguins in third. So these, in my opinion, are the teams that are going to get the auto bid to the playoffs. They're going to get the division spots in the playoffs. That's what I have going for these teams. Moving on to the wild card teams now. So for the Western Conference, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Wild. I definitely think it's going to be a battle all season long between them, Nashville, and St. Louis for those kind of 2nd through 4th spots in the Central Division. And I definitely think, they made the playoffs last year. I think Minnesota definitely has a great chance to make the playoffs this year. And then the other wild card I'm going to have is the LA Kings. The Dallas Stars were also in consideration for me here. They're the only team from last year that I don't have making it. I have the Golden Knights basically replacing them. But I just think the LA Kings are going to edge out the Dallas Stars a little bit. I think the Stars' lack of offense is really going to come back to haunt them. So yeah, I've got the Wild and the Kings as the wild cards for the Western Conference. For the Eastern Conference, the first wild card I have is the Washington Capitals. It's an aging team. It's a team that's going to be hurt a little bit this year, but the Capitals, they're a constant playoff presence. They're a constant playoff team. I don't see any reason why this season they won't make the playoffs unless we just see some kind of major regression out of Alexander Ovechkin and some of the other players on their team. I think the goaltending got a little bit better in Washington, so that should help them out. The second wild card that I have is going to be the Ottawa Senators. Also, same with the Eastern Conference. I have all the same teams from last year in the playoffs except for the Ottawa Senators. I have them replacing the Boston Bruins. The Bruins, I think, are just going to be, they're not going to be able to recover enough from the coaching change and the fact that Marchand and McAvoy are going to miss a lot of time to start the season. I also could have probably considered a team like the, I don't know why I've lost their name now. I'm having a huge brain fart. But no, I definitely think they can replace a team like the, here we go, I just remembered it, the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're the team that I have finishing 5th in the Metropolitan Division. I just think it might be a little bit too early for the Blue Jackets to make the playoffs. They definitely have a chance. But I've seen a lot of kind of different ideas and previews on the Blue Jackets. Like some people have them finishing 5th or 4th in the Metropolitan. Others have them finishing down in 7th. Like the Metropolitan is going to be a little bit crazy this year with those bottom few teams. But I think the Ottawa Senators, they made the right, they made the right combination of moves, and they were looking really good at the end of last season. So I think they're going to take that last spot over the Bruins. I think the Bruins will be the first team out. Like I think the Stars will be the first team out in the West, and I think the Bruins will be the first team out in the East. So moving on to my Western and Eastern Conference Finals. For the Western Conference, I have to stick with the Colorado Avalanche just because they are the Stanley Cup favorites this year. They look just as dominant as ever. I'm going to go with the Vegas Golden Knights being their representative in the Western Conference Finals. I know a lot of people out there are picking the Edmonton Oilers to get to this spot. The Oilers, to me, they just seem to collapse in the playoffs. They collapsed against Colorado last year. honestly, I don't think they really should have been able to make it. I think Calgary really, the collapse of Calgary was what led to Edmonton even getting there in the first place. So I think the Golden Knights, they're really hungry. They missed the playoffs for the first time in their team's history last year. I think they're super hungry to get back, and I think they'll make it to the Western Conference Finals. I think they'll be able to, since of course they don't have to go through Colorado in the early stages. I think that'll be big for them. I think, it'll be a tough road. They'll have to go through Calgary. They'll probably have to go through Edmonton as well, but I think Vegas can get it done. Colorado, in my mind, should be able to breeze through here. They'll have to go through whatever the wild card team is. So in this scenario, they'll be going through the LA Kings, which should be pretty easy for them. And then after that, I have a feeling they'll probably end up going through either the Blues or the Predators. So definitely should be an easy road for them in my mind. Over in the East, we're going to have the Carolina Hurricanes and the Tampa Bay Lightning for the Eastern Conference Finals. Tampa, they just seem to always be here. Until something drastic changes in the organization, it's really, really hard for me to not pick the Tampa Bay Lightning to be here. And then for the other team, I really went back and forth between the Hurricanes and the Rangers for that other team, but I definitely think if Frederik Andersen is healthy going into the playoffs, that's going to make a huge difference for the Carolina Hurricanes. And also, Max Pacioretty will be back from his Achilles tendon tear, so the Canes will get another goal scorer on that roster. But I think the main thing is that this time around, Frederik Andersen's going to be healthy. I think that was a big thing that hurt them last year. They had Ronta playing in the playoffs. He's a great backup, but he's definitely not a starting goaltender. And their other option was Kochetkov, who was, a young AHL guy who they brought up just for the playoffs because, Andersen was hurt. So I think Andersen will be healthy, and I think he'll lead them through. I think the Hurricanes, their road will definitely be a little bit easier than the Lightning's road, in my opinion. The Hurricanes, they'll probably have to go through they'll have to go through Pittsburgh in the first round. Based on my standings, they'd have to go through Pittsburgh in the first round, which I think they can easily do that. Pittsburgh has had problems with with getting out of the first round. Then they'll have to go through the Rangers, which I think they get the revenge on the Rangers this year. The Lightning, in my scenario, they would have to go through Ottawa in the first round, which I think they'll be able to cruise by them. And then after that, they'll get a matchup with either Toronto or Florida, teams that they beat in the playoffs last year. So I'm going to go with the Hurricanes to win, though. It'll be a good series. And then in the Stanley Cup Finals, so of course I have the Avalanche and the Hurricanes, and I have to go with the Colorado Avalanche if I'm being logical here. My heart tells me that I want to pick the Hurricanes, but the logical side of my brain is saying that the Avalanche are still the best team in the NHL. They're coming off that Stanley Cup win last year. They've got all the momentum. They're still hungry for more. So I think the Colorado Avalanche are going to win the Stanley Cup. My official prediction for Stanley Cup champion for 2023 is going to be the Colorado Avalanche over the Carolina Hurricanes. So now moving on to the various awards. I'm going to cover who I think is going to win every award here. The only one I didn't include was the Masterton Trophy, just because that one is impossible to predict for the most part, because it always kind of goes to someone who had a really good story or a good comeback story, and there's not really any of those yet emerging right now. So I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But so I'm not going to predict the Masterton, but we'll start with the Jennings Trophy. This is awarded to the team that gives up the least amount of goals, and it goes to, so if depending on how many games two goaltenders play, it can go to two goaltenders. It will obviously go to the primary goaltender, but if a second goaltender plays enough games, then it'll go to them as well. We saw this with the Hurricanes last year with Frederik Andersen and Antti Raanta both winning it. So for this year, I have it going to Igor Shesterkin and potentially Yaroslav Halak if he plays enough games. The Rangers, they have a really good defense. Shesterkin, I'm expecting regression out of him, but I don't think he'll regress that much. And I definitely think he'll be a key reason. I think it'll be a close race between them, the Hurricanes. I definitely think Andersen and Raanta are going to be in the running for that again. I think Vasilevski could be in the running for that, but I think Shesterkin is going to take the Jennings Trophy this year, him and Halak, just because of how good and how young this Rangers defense is and how it's improving. Then we move on to the Lady Byng Award. This is, of course, awarded to the player that has it's basically the Sportsmanship Award, and I'm going to give it to the guy who won it in 2020, and that is going to be Jacob Slavin. he had an incredible performance in 2020 where he basically managed to get through the whole season, only committing one penalty all season, and that was a delay of game penalty where he chucked the puck over the ice, or over the glass. So no stick penalties. He's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. He's one of the cleanest defensemen in the NHL. And I definitely think that he can win it again this year. This award, of course, last year went to Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets. So, definitely could think that he could be in the running for it again as well. But I think Jacob Slavin's going to reclaim the Lady Byng Trophy this year, and he'll be fully healthy and he'll get it again. Moving on to the next couple of trophies here. So first we have the Jack Adams Trophy, which is awarded to the NHL's Coach of the Year. And, as privy to with what I'm predicting for the Senators this year, I'm going to give the Jack Adams Award to their head coach, DJ Smith. And, I think it's just going to be a major improvement for the Ottawa Senators all around. I think he's going to be able to lead them to the playoffs. And, it normally has to go to someone who, does something what someone's not expecting or have like a major improvement over their team. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and pick him for this award. I think there could be, I'm not sure who else could be in consideration for this really, because I'm not really predicting a whole lot of improvement from a lot of teams. I know that a potential possibility could be the Blue Jackets coach. I can't remember his name anymore. But I definitely think the Blue Jackets coach could definitely be in the running for this as well. My leg. But I think JD Adams is going to be the one to get it. For the Calder Cup is, of course, given to the Rookie of the Year. There are really kind of two candidates for this, but I'm going to go with Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. He seems like just the most NHL ready, the most ready to contribute on the big stage. He obviously, of course, has some great teammates to play alongside with Trevor Zegras and Troy Terry. So there's not going to be a huge amount of burden on him. Sometimes when these teams get the, high draft picks, there's a lot of expectation on these players because the rest of the team kind of sucks, but there's at least a lot of players around him to pick up some of the slack. And I think Mason McTavish is going to be able to really thrive in this system with the Anaheim Ducks, and I think he's going to get the Calder Trophy. Moving on to the Selkie Trophy. Now, the Selkie Trophy is, of course, given to the forward who is best excels at the defensive part of the game. And I'm going to give the Selkie Trophy to the 2020 Selkie Trophy Award winner, and that's going to be Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers. I mentioned he won the award in 2020. Patrice Bergeron won it last year. Bergeron should, of course, be in the running for that again, but Barkov, in my mind, is just on another level in terms of he has so much talent offensively, and he has just as much talent defensively. He's basically like a younger Patrice Bergeron. He contributes everywhere on the ice. He's a great goal scorer. He's a great penalty killer. Again, one of the best two-way forwards in the game. Sometimes when you think of two-way forwards, you think of guys that, are really good defensively but don't really put up huge numbers on the offensive side. Barkov is not that guy. He is really great on the defensive side of the ice, and he puts up a lot of goals and gets a lot of points. So I think the Florida Panthers captain is going to capture his second Selkie Trophy this time around. So then we have the Ted Lindsay Award. Now, the Ted Lindsay Award is basically, it's like the MVP award, but it's awarded by the NHL Players Association. So the Players Association, instead of it being like the media and the coaches and all that stuff that vote on it, this is the Players Association that votes on this award. I know a lot of players, they tend to hold this award in a bit higher regard than the Hart Trophy because they like to hear what their peers think rather than what, all of the observers think. But for the Ted Lindsay Award, I'm going to go with Connor McDavid. He, no doubt in my mind, he's going to be a Hart Trophy candidate. He's going to be an Art Ross Trophy candidate. He's going to be a candidate for every major award when it comes to the best player in the league. This is a bit of a foreshadow. I do think he's going to miss out on the Hart Trophy this year. I think the problem for McDavid is just the fact that him and Draisaitl being on the same team, they're both really great, and one doesn't really stand out from the other most of the time. So it's like you got two competing forces already on the same team, and I think that's going to be kind of what's going to hold McDavid back a little bit from the Hart Trophy this year. It's just, I think him and Draisaitl are, I think Draisaitl's going to perform well. I think he's going to do really good. I mean, he's going to be in the running for the Hart Trophy as well. But I think McDavid, they're still going to consider, the Players Association I think is still going to vote for him as the best player. So I'm going to stick with McDavid. Usually the Lindsay Award winner and the Hart Trophy award winner kind of line up for the most part, but in this case I'm going to have them being different. So then moving on to the next two trophies here, these are the two trophies that are awarded for the player that has the most points and the player that has the most goals. So we'll start with the Art Ross Trophy, award to the player with the most points at the end of the season, and I'm going to give that to Nathan MacKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. Like I said, McDavid's going to be in the running for this. Austin Matthews will be in the running for this. Draisaitl. There'll be a lot of candidates in the running for this, all the top players, all the names that everyone knows. But I think Nathan MacKinnon's going to do it this year. Nathan MacKinnon, he kind of has a little bit of a injury history in his career, which is why, maybe he hasn't always been in the running for these awards. But I think MacKinnon, he's going to get through a season fully healthy. He's, the best player on this Colorado Avalanche team. I know a while ago I said Cale Makar probably had the best chance for stuff on this team, but I think that Nathan MacKinnon, I've kind of altered my course. I think MacKinnon is the best player on this team, and I think he's going to be able to take home the Art Ross Trophy for the most points. Now, for the most goals for the Rocket Richard Trophy, I have Austin Matthews repeating for the Rocket Richard Trophy. He won it last year. This is a trophy that was dominated by Alexander Ovechkin for a long time. Austin Matthews right now is the best pure goal scorer in the league. He may not be the biggest point getter because, most of what he does is scoring goals. When it comes to getting points, you got to be able to score goals and get lots of assists. And he certainly gets his fair share of assists, but he's a lot more well-known for his goal scoring. He joined the 60-goal club last season. So I think Austin Matthews is going to repeat as the Rocket Richard Trophy winner. Moving on to the final four awards here, we first have the Norris Trophy, which is awarded to the best defenseman. This was, of course, won by Cale Makar last year. It was a very close race between him and Roman Josi. Victor Hedman was, of course, also a candidate, but I'm going to have Roman Josi winning it this year. Like I said, I think Makar is going to be great. I think Victor Hedman's going to be in the running. I think Adam Fox is going to be in the running for this. If it was truly an award that was given to the best defenseman, I would think Jacob Slavin should be in the running for this, but they always like to give it to defensemen who put up a lot of points, and Slavin never really gets a lot of points. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Roman Josi. I think the Predators defenseman and captain is going to take it this year. He missed out on it by just this much last year, so I think he gets it this year. Then we have the Vezina Trophy given to the best goaltender, of course won by Igor Shesterkin last year. This time around, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Andrei Vasilevski. He actually hasn't won this award for quite a few years now. I think the last time he won it was in 2019. He's always a candidate, of course, for this award. He is, in my opinion, the best goaltender in the league. So he's always a candidate for it, but it's been a long time since he's actually won it. He tends to have the most wins as a goaltender. And the other reason why is because the fact that Tampa doesn't ever really have a good second goaltender. He's always having to do most of the work, so I think this year, again, I think Shesterkin will be in the running. I think UC Saros again. I think Frederik Andersen will be in the running for it. But I think Vasilevski this time is actually going to take it. Like I said, I see regression happening out of Igor Shesterkin this season. And, Vasilevski, I don't see any regression happening with him. Shesterkin, that was kind of his breakout year last year, whereas Vasilevski's been doing this for many years now. So I think Vasilevski takes the Vezina Trophy. And finally, moving on to the final two trophies, all on one screen here, the Hart Trophy given to the MVP and the Conn Smythe Trophy given to the playoff MVP. I have both going to the same guy, and that is again going to be Nathan MacKinnon, who I had winning the Art Ross Trophy. Normally the guy who wins the Art Ross Trophy is the guy who comes away with the Hart Trophy. Getting the most points on your team obviously makes you the most valuable player because you've contributed to the most goals on your team. So I think McKinnon's going to be that guy. Like I said, I know in my Avalanche preview I said that Cale Makar had the best chance for this, but I've kind of switched my mind since then. That Central video was a long time ago. I think McKinnon's going to be the one, and I do have the Colorado Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup. Makar won the Conn Smythe Trophy last year, but MacKinnon was right behind him when it came to contributions on that. I think Makar had like one or two more points than him. And I think Nathan MacKinnon's going to take the Conn Smythe Trophy this year, as well as the Hart Trophy. He's going to get three of the biggest trophies en route to another Stanley Cup win 2023 for the Colorado Avalanche. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you let me know down in the comments below if you agree with my picks, disagree with my picks. Who do you think is going to win the 2023 Stanley Cup? Make sure you put your matchups and your winner down below in the comments. hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you check out all of our other videos. We still have our daily podcast videos coming out every Tuesday. We have new editions of the Lockboard coming out every Friday. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that, as well as some other videos that we have planned for the future. And until then, I will see you guys next time.